The Penguin is back this week with episode 2 of the show, and this one was specifically centered around Sofia Falcone. The judgment that she's facing on the outside since being out of Arkham, the internal issues she's struggling with, and the grief that she was going through following the death of her brother Alberto. With Oz planting the seed about her potentially becoming the boss and looking to divide the family, it concluded with that being the very thing that looks set to be on the horizon, which ultimately puts the Penguin one step closer to the top. So with that, let's jump into this episode and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is The Penguin episode 2, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The focus on Sofia's mental state. If there's one thing that this episode really leaned in on, it was the mental state of Sofia Falcone. We found out that she was originally in Arkham for being a serial killer and being responsible for murdering 7 women. However, it was rumored to be more than that. The one main similarity between herself and Oz is that despite the fact that they're caught up in the empire that they're both looking to run and are involved in, the thing that they care about most is their immediate family. With Oz, it's his mother, which we saw him drop everything for in order to make sure that she was okay. And with Sofia, it was always Alberto, but now she was going through a deep sense of mourning and struggling with grief. The fact that the first thing that we saw when the episode opened was this kind of nightmare that she was having when she was back in Arkham and her brother was visiting her, where she saw that he got shot. It showed the two things that were weighing heavy on her mind in the present day and were at the center of the episode. Her brother's death and the judgment from others about what she did before when she was sent to Arkham. Sofia wanted to get to the bottom of who specifically was responsible for the death of Alberto within the Maroni family, and who was the rat on the inside because she wanted to make them pay. Hence why there was so much upset when Luca killed Castillo, because she almost needed to do that so she could let go of it mentally, but that was taken away from her. Something which tied into her decision making at the end. And with regards to being within Arkham weighing on her mind, she felt as though she was being judged by everybody around her for being on the outside, almost as if they didn't feel as though she should have been exonerated. Throughout the episode, moments such as the radio broadcast discussing that she shouldn't be out of Arkham, which she didn't want turning off, somebody that she trusted, Castillo, being framed for killing her brother by Oz and her feeling a sense of betrayal, Carla being two-faced with her and being polite and offering to go on a girls' trip to Italy, but then being riddled with fear for her daughter when Sofia got close to her. And also the undermining from Luca and Johnny that she was feeling for taking matters into her own hands with regards to Ervard, plus with Luca wanting to send her to Italy so that she'd be out of the way and make things less complicated. It ultimately spurred her on to finally want to take the empire for herself and to take down her uncle and his associates. She was already a broken and judged individual that was grieving, and every single one of those things throughout the episode was what ultimately pushed her to the point of no longer being loyal to them, and realizing that she wanted to do it herself, well, along with Oz, as he was the person that initially suggested it. I thought the final scene with her looking at the plaques of her mother, father, and brother was particularly interesting and important. She was the last standing member of the immediate family, and I think that was something which put weight on her shoulders and made her want to take it on even more. She said to us, "I want to take what's mine," and by seeing her family members' plaques, it showed her that it was hers for the taking, and now was the time, as she knew that it was only a matter of time before she became another name etched onto that wall, and she didn't want that to be the case. Even though Oz's plan didn't 100% go how he wanted it to in this episode because Vic messed up, Sofia Falcone looking to take down her uncle and Johnny has almost fast-tracked his plan in a way that he could never have imagined. Oz's spinning plates. What we're seeing from Oz now are the many different plates that he got spinning as part of his plan. He's got his alibi in Eve on the night that Alberto was killed in putting them at risk. He's playing both Johnny and Luca. He's also pushed Sofia to go at it alone whilst he's alongside her. He's siding with the Maronis in setting up a war between the two families. But he's also looking to take the empire for himself and destroy the Maronis and also the Falcones. He's created a war on two fronts for the Falcones. One is internal and like a civil war, and the other is external. And when you look at it like that, there's genuinely no way that the family's empire is going to survive everything that he's going to put it through. So I imagine he's going to pick up all of the pieces and reign supreme. One of the largest plates that takes priority, though, is that of his mother and the dementia that she has. We saw him go to her in an emergency in this episode, and that took priority over him showing his face at Alberto's funeral, something which could have been damaging if he didn't arrive at all. He played a jazz record whilst he was there, and they both got up and danced. This was reminiscent of the time that Oz's brothers died and when she took him to watch live music for the first time. We didn't know that at the time, but once he explained his grieving process to Sofia, it was actually a really powerful moment and showed that deep sense of care that he has for his mother. Oz is an evil individual at his core and will kill without even batting an eyelid, as we saw with Ervard and the framing of Castillo. But towards his mother, there isn't anything that he wouldn't do. He also kind of shows this side towards Vic as well, so it's interesting seeing the different sides to his mind and the contrast in the both of them. You'd think that him working with everybody he possibly could and pretty much being a rat for each and every one of them will have its complications, and I think there will be some, as he sparked the entire thing. But I think the dismantling of Johnny with the photos of him with Luca's wife is the next step in the plan. My review of the episode. I thought this was a really good episode of the show. It followed on from the premiere in a way that allowed us to get straight into the story. I like the fact that we got to spend a lot of time with Sofia and truly understand what was going on inside of her head and the weight that she was feeling. She's an individual that's genuinely struggling, but puts on a brave face every morning when she faces the world and her family, and it's such an interesting complex. Cristin Milioti genuinely brings a haunting, frightening, and numbing edge to the character. Whenever you're watching a scene with Sofia in it, you don't know which direction it's going to go in. She's calm, cool, and collected, but you just get this sense that everything is boiling up inside of her just by the way that she's looking at the characters that she's interacting with. The dynamic between herself and Oz has already been great to watch develop in the first 2 episodes, and I'm intrigued to see how much more it's going to develop. The scene where Ervard's body was found dead and the entire family went hunting for a knife was a really tense one. I liked the whole thinking on your feet mindset that Oz had, and it showed the quick nature that he had to be able to adapt to any situation. The very thing that he was telling Vic about when he had him in the grave and said that if he didn't learn to be quicker, then that's where he would have ended up. There were a few moments within this episode which were brushed over slightly, but I think will have some importance moving forward. The first was that on the radio it was mentioned that crime was up over 40% in the city since the floods, and the second was the missing people posters that Vic focused on. The main title was Last Seen Before the Flood, so with crime spiking upwards and people going missing, it really did paint a haunting picture of what the city was going through. I wonder if Vic knew any of those people. He was asked about where he was from and the devastation that it went through with the flood, and he was apprehensive to answer. So I feel we're going to get more from the character as time goes on. He's definitely got his complications and layers, and I'm intrigued to see what they're going to be. The pacing of this show is one that feels like it's got a calm, steady flow to it. It's not rapid or racing through the story, and it really allows us to feel part of this world that we're watching have cracks starting to show. Colin Farell as Oz is genuinely the perfect casting as well. We saw great moments from him in the Batman movie, but within this show we're getting several layers to the character, and we're truly seeing a different side to him. A more human side when it comes to family and the brothers that he lost, but also the ruthless side that you need to become the leader of an empire. When he mentioned about needing to go through the problem rather than avoiding it, it perfectly summed up his mindset, but also his hunger to get to the top. Because if he wasn't at the top, then he almost didn't see a point in living. It's almost like every time he goes to the Falcone's house, there's a strong possibility that he's going to be killed, but somehow he manages to navigate his way out of it. The whole Maroni and Falcone feud that was sparked by Salvatore taking the rap for the killing of Alberto is something that is simmering away in the background, and it will most likely erupt towards the back end of the season. For now, it feels like the focus is going to be a civil war, but with Oz being involved with the Maronis and Sofia, and also Johnny and Luca, he really is playing a dangerous game where all it takes is one mistake for everything to be undone. I'm loving it. It's so tense and you never truly know what's around the corner. The perfect way for a show like this to be. So, there you have it. The Penguin Episode 2 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on the Penguin, then click on the card in the top corner. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.